The breaking news, the NFL has just announced that Vontaze Burfict has been suspended for the rest of the season, which includes any postseason time for this helmet-to-helmet hit on the Colts' Jack Doyle yesterday. The video shows Burfict leading with his helmet and launching into Doyle. Replay officials in New York saw it and ejected him from the game yesterday. And now the news coming down from the league office that he is done for the season. He does have 3 days to appeal. And of course, we know Vontaze Burfict has some history with this kind of thing. He's previously been suspended for 10 games throughout his career, 6 of which have been due to violating player safety rules. His most recent suspension was due to violating the league's PED rules. Let's bring in our panel here now, Chris Mortensen and Ryan Clark, with the very latest as this news is just happening. What more can you tell us about the decision?
Well, as soon as everybody saw Vontaze Burfict ejected from the game for that hit on Colts tight end Jack Doyle, I think we all anticipated something significant was going to come down because of this history. And this morning, NFL Vice President of Football Operations, John Runyon, made the determination all these repeated violations and the egregious nature of them without any mitigating circumstances. In other words, nobody's blocking them in the back. That this warranted the suspension for the season and the postseason, should the Raiders make it. And certainly it is going to be appealed by Burfict. And I think what's unique about this situation is Runyon is a former player in this league for a long time with the Philadelphia Eagles, who was known for his pretty physical play.
A little chippy.
But the two appeals officers in this are also former players. James Thrash, a former receiver, and Derek Brooks, a Hall of Fame linebacker. So one of them will be assigned the appeal. His last suspension of 5 games was actually reduced, but in this situation, the league is sending a message, whether it's reduced or not in appeal, that we're not going to tolerate this.
Here's the problem. He has been suspended. He's been fined many, many times for what he does on the field. Is there any fix in this, RC, or is this who he is, and should he be allowed to continue playing football?
There is fixing it, and I've seen players fix it. I had to fix it. I was a guy who was heavily fined and heavily penalized because I played the game one way, and the league started to transition the game to be more safe for the players. James Harrison. So we had to lower our strike zone, understand where we could and couldn't hit players. And it wasn't that we got it perfect, but you can definitely see guys trying to transition to the new way of playing football, to the new way of tackling. There was some contrition there if you did make a mistake. And I think when we watch Vontaze Burfict, especially on this hit, he had an opportunity to lower his strike zone. He understood the positioning that Jack Doyle was in. And even after that, when you're running off the field, understanding what your resume is, what your career has been, and what you were just ejected for, and you're smiling and you're blowing kisses, I just feel like that has to play a part in understanding a player's perspective on how he's going to play the game and if he even wants to try and attempt to change.
Okay. The previous long suspension for an on-field incident was the Albert Haynesworth stomping incident with Andre Gerard back in 2006. Andre Gerard needed 30 stitches in his head to get that fixed. He got suspended for 5 games. This now becomes a 12-game suspension plus, as Morton mentioned, with any postseason play that the Raiders might have. So quite an unprecedented move by the NFL. Carrie, let's get it back to you.
All right, so David, look, this is the 4th straight season Burfict has drawn a suspension. He's been fined nearly $500,000 in his career, and that does not even include missed game checks. He's had 23 personal fouls and 15 unnecessary roughness penalties since 2012. Both are the most in the NFL in that span. So Stephen A., you're joining us now, again, suspended for the rest of the 2019 season. He has 3 days to appeal this suspension. Your reaction to what the NFL has decided was the discipline for Vontaze Burfict?
They made the right decision. There's no way around it. This is an individual that has racked up over $4.5 million in career fines. This is the guy that was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school with Matt Barkley, and literally had Matt Barkley coming out of high school having committed to USC, where Vontaze Burfict was supposed to go, before transitioning to Arizona State, because he called Vontaze Burfict a dirty player because as a high school player, he targeted Matt Barkley's knees, according to Matt Barkley. He goes to college at Arizona State. He incurs fines then, even shoving referees for crying out loud. And even though he was the Pac-10, I think it was Pac-10 Freshman of the Year, these are the kind of things that he had as a reputation coming into the pros. And as you highlighted, it's 4 consecutive years that he's been penalized. He's been repeatedly warned by the National Football League over overall, he's incurred about 13 different fines and penalties over the course of his NFL career. The NFL has had private conversations with him. They've given him warning after warning after warning. They've suspended him numerous times, and still you go into the game and you make that kind of egregious error. This is after being let go by the Cincinnati Bengals. This is after the Cincinnati Bengals tried to trade you and couldn't find somebody to take you away from them for a box of cookies. Although you were a free agent for just one day before the Oakland Raiders picked you up and signed you to a one-year deal, you knew what your reputation was. You knew why that reputation was warranted. And then you go into a game against Indianapolis yesterday and you literally launch your helmet into Doyle. And then you go off the field of play after being ejected and you're smiling and blowing kisses to the fans, knowing your history. Clearly, there's something that's wrong. Clearly, there's something that the NFL had to do. We don't enjoy saying that somebody deserves to potentially lose their career. But I think it's at that point right now that he's at that point where you look at Vontaze Burfict, and it's not about being suspended for the year. It's about the fact that this move right here could have ended his NFL career. Because if people barely wanted you a few months ago, why the hell are they going to want you now?
Yeah, undrafted free agent in 2012 from Arizona State, as you mentioned, due in large part to his reputation. Stephen A. Smith joining us here on Coast to Coast with reaction to Vontaze Burfict being suspended for the rest of the 2019 season. Thank you. David, I'll send it over to you.
All right, Carrie, let's get to some highlights with RC here. Cowboys and Saints, a lot of defense, nothing coming easy in the Big Easy on Sunday night. We get to it, and big play here. 4th